Welcome to Staff Works Explained. If you are here for the first time, please consider subscribing to this channel. In today's video, we'll be talking about Kenya's resetting of JKIA, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport expansion with a phased development plan. And the question that we'll be asking ourselves is, will this time be different? After years of completing proposals, stalled projects, and shifting strategies for the expansion of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, JKIA, the Kenyan government is once again promising a reset. The question many in the aviation sector are asking is whether this latest plan will finally move from paper to concrete. That question was brought into sharp focus following the issuance of a new tender by the Kenya Airport Authority (KAA) for the construction of a new airport facility and the upgrade of the existing infrastructure at JKIA. The announcement was made at the airport by the Cabinet Secretary for Roads and Transport, Davis Shechir, marking what the government described as decisive shift from past approaches that failed to materialize. This development comes after so many plans, suggestions, and alternative models for JKIA's expansion has been proposed over the years that even industry experts have struggled to keep track. Some were overly ambitious, others were financially complex, and several collapsed before the construction began. Against that history, the government is now betting on a phased development model anchored in a newly completed master plan, arguing that this is more realistic, more affordable, and more deliverable. Here we examine what the new plan actually involves, why it differs from the previous proposals, and how it is intended to be implemented, and whether the conditions exist for it to succeed where earlier efforts failed. It also places JKIA's expansion into a regional context where competition from newer purpose-built airports is intensifying. Time is no longer on the Kenyan side. That's what we conclude. What new developments are there from this approach? At the core of the project is a phased expansion approach. Rather than attempting to build a single large terminal complex in one build, the plan provides for construction of a new passenger facility designed to incrementally increase capacity, targeted upgrades to existing terminals, airside pavements and support systems, modernization of passenger processing areas, including check-ins, security screening, and baggage handling and arrivals, improvement of aircraft parking stands as well as taxis, utilities, and landside access. This approach allows JKIA to remain fully operational during the construction while capacity is added in a manageable stages. From a project delivery perspective, it reduces financial exposure, construction risk, as well as disruption to airline operations. How is this different from the previous plans? JKIA has been subject to multiple expansion proposals over the decade. This included large single-phase terminal projects and concession-based models that depended heavily on private financing. Several of those plans collapsed due to procurement disputes, financing challenges, legal challenges, as well as lack of alignment with the actual traffic growth patterns. What sets the current initiative apart is that it's grounded in an integrated master plan and feasibility study, which was prepared by Kenya Airport Authority and was concluded in February 2026. The study assessed passenger-focused cargo demand, operations constraints, as well as land use, using updated traffic data as well as realistic growth assumptions. Instead of designing for aspiration capacity targets decades ahead, the plan prioritizes build as you grow development, allowing infrastructure investment to track actual demand. While the government settled on a phased development approach at this airport, the integrated master plan and feasibility study for JKIA, which was completed in 2026 and authored by the Kenya Airports Authority, it outlines a clear strategy on how the airport should grow to meet both immediate challenges and long-term demand focused. Rather than building all infrastructure in one large project, the planning study recommends breaking the development into phases. This structure was selected for specific strategic reasons, and each of these reasons reflects a deliberate response to operational realities, financial constraints, as well as lessons from the past attempts at the airport expansion. The first one is matching the Kenya's financial reality by spreading cost over time. Airport expansion requires large capital expenditures, money spent upfront on land, design, construction, equipment, as well as new technology. The JKIA master plan forecasts passenger demand rising from 8.3 million passengers in 2025, well above the current capacity of 7.5 million passengers per year, to more than 22 million passengers by 2035. To afford the necessary investment without overwhelming the national budget or creating unsustainable debt, the phased approach spreads capital outlays across multiple stages. Phase 1 will focus on adding capacity in short term. For example, a terminal capable of handling 10 million passengers annually, even as the current airport continues to operate. Phase 2 then adds capacity as demand grows, such as an additional 5 million passengers per year, taking the total capacity to around 15 million annually when fully built up. By spreading investment, the government can align spreading with revenue flows, avoid large upfront borrowing, as well as reduce risk of cost blowouts that have hampered previous airport plans. The second reason is allowing lessons for each phase to inform the next. Large infrastructure projects often face design and operation issues that are only fully understood once construction begins and the systems are tested in real use. Facing the project lets the planners build initial infrastructure, for example, components of the passenger terminal, technology systems, as well as runway enhancement. It also allows use and real operating conditions, then adjust design, capacity, and delivery schedules in subsequent phases. This learning by doing approach improves outcomes because it prevents future stages from repeating mistakes or basing design on outdated assumptions. It adds flexibility that one-off monolithic construction cannot provide. Third, we have the reducing of the risk of underutilized infrastructure. When planners build far beyond current demand, the risk of creating infrastructure that sits largely unused for years is possible. That has been concerned with previous proposal for JKIA, where ambitious single-stage expansion sometimes assumed traffic growth that did not materialize quickly enough. The phased plan mitigates this risk by aligning capacity additions with realistic traffic forecast. Current forecasts indicate steady growth over the next 2 decades rather than exponential leaps. Phased development ensures that short capacity is added when it is already needed. Additional capacity is added only as demand approaches defined threshold. This reduces wasted capital, ensures that each facility has immediate utility. Fourth, we have reducing dependence on complex financing structure. Previous expansion model for JKIA explored heavy reliance on external private financing or public-private partnership that involved long-term concession. This model often proved difficult to implement due to contractual, legal, as well as financing implication. A phased development model reduces the need for large external financing packages all at once, makes budgetary planning and procurement more transparent and manageable, limits exposure to complex financial arrangements that can delay construction. This simplicity strengthens government control, avoids protracted negotiations that stalled earlier proposals. Then we have improving accountability as another reason through independent delivery and audits. Facing the JKIA expansion also improves oversight and accountability. Each phase from design to procurement to delivery can be competitively tendered on its own, budgeted separately, independently audited, and reported to stakeholders. This segmented approach makes it easier for the government, regulators, as well as legislature, auditors, as well as public to evaluate performance at each stage rather than trying to manage a single large contract for the entire project. Independent procurement for each phase helps to detect issues early, as well as allowing corrective action well before subsequent stages begin. So officials from Ministry and Kenya Airport Authority have cited phased model as pragmatic response to what the integrated master plan revealed. JKIA existing facilities are already stretched beyond capacity, and unchecked growth will require infrastructure to be added over time if it is to stay aligned with demand, cost structures as well as operational realities. Taken together, the first approach makes long-term capacity expansion financially and logistically feasible, reduces risk associated with overbuilding and misalignment, projection, enables better learning and refinement between stages, as well as improves procurement, accountability, and transparency. So these are practical project management principles put into practice to ensure that this time the airport upgrade progresses beyond planning into delivery, as well as sustained performance improvement. Will this finally materialize? That's the question that is on everyone's lips. Skepticism is understandable. JKIA expansion has been announced before without results. However, there are key differences this time. First, the tender has already been issued, moving the project from concept to procurement. Second, the scope is more modest and executable, reducing the likelihood of cancellation due to cost escalation or contractual dispute. Third, the plan is anchored into a completed and approved master plan rather than a standalone project idea. While no infrastructure project is risk-free, the conditions that derailed earlier attempts are significantly reduced. JKIA regional position is under threat. That's a conclusion that has been made by many, and that's why this expansion is very crucial. JKIA remains one of Africa's key aviation hubs, but its dominance is no longer guaranteed. In Ethiopia, Addis Ababa Bole International Airport has undergone multiple expansion and is now nearing its design limits. This has led to development of a new greenfield airport at Bishoftu, which is intended to eventually take over the country's primary hub. In Rwanda, construction is underway at Bugesera International Airport, a purpose-built facility designed to handle large transfer traffic with modern systems as well as ample room for expansion. This greenfield airport, built from scratch without legacy constraints, posed a competitive challenge for JKIA, which operates on a constrained site while remaining fully active. Without timely upgrades, airlines could increasingly favor new hubs, offering faster turnaround times, more efficient passenger flows, as well as scalable capacity. Why a phased approach works for Kenya? For Kenya, a phased expansion offers flexibility. It allows JKIA to defend its hub status in the short and medium term while avoiding the financial and operational shock of full greenfield relocation. However, this approach has limitations. Construction within an operating airport is slower and more complex. Capacity gains come incrementally and not immediately. There is also a risk that future phases could be delayed by political or budgetary changes. From a project management perspective, success will depend on strict adherence to timelines, disciplined scope control, as well as continuity across administration. And now, the conclusion. The JKIA new development marks a pragmatic reset rather than ambitious gamble. It acknowledges past failures, responds to regional competitive pressure, and adopts a delivery model better aligned with Kenya economic and operational realities. Whether it succeeds will depend less on announcement and more on execution. What is clear is that standing still is no longer an option. In this region where new airports are rising quickly, JKIA must modernize or risk losing its place as East African primary aviation gateway. So thank you for reaching this far. If this is your first time here, please consider subscribing to this channel. You can also watch other videos that were made on this airport, other projects in Kenya, in East Africa, as well as Africa at large. Let's meet in the next one. Thank you.